Scheduling a trip can be a lot of work. We just finished planning our trip from Yuma, Arizona to Vancouver, BC, Canada. We have 27 days to do it. We booked 11 different sites along the way, 12 if you count our final destination in BC. So, what goes into planning a big trip? How far do you want to drive? How much time do you have for the whole voyage? What things do you want to see along the way? How much will it cost? It can be overwhelming. What do we do and how do we do it? Let us take you along our trip planning process.
Here are some steps to organize your thoughts and plans. First, we look at where we are beginning and ending. In this case, we are starting off in Yuma, Arizona, and we are ending in Vancouver, British Columbia. Second, figure out how much time you have to make the trip. In our case, we have 30 days to get to our final location in BC. Third, we pull up Google Maps and see what routes are possible between point A and point B. If you're doing a round-trip destination, you might consider two different paths, one to get there and a different way back in order to see a variety of places. We have a few routes that we could take. One, through Arizona, Nevada, etc. Secondly, we could go through Central California. And thirdly, we could choose Coastal California, Oregon, and Washington. And really a whole bunch of variations on this depending on what we want to see and how far off the beaten path that we choose to go. At this point, we're not picking a definite route, just scoping out our potential options. We look at how much time it will be in a rough sort of way, 31 hours of straight driving according to Google Maps. But that is just considering this to be a starting point to give us an estimated time frame.
Next, we look at any places along the way that we might like to see. Not that we'll necessarily be going to these places on this particular journey, but at least we get a list of things we might like to see depending on our time and the route we end up taking. Some things are just easy to pick. For example, Sequoia and Kings Canyon Park is on our list, as is San Francisco, Big Sur, Joshua Tree, and Redwood. We decided that we'd prefer a California route this time instead of a Nevada route, so we're concentrating our list based on this proposed zone. Sometimes we base our search on a city. In this case, we know we'll be going to San Francisco, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, so these are heading in our files. For Mike and myself, we like to have a Google Docs folder that we share. This way we both have access to it separately, yet it's a single document. If I'm looking on my phone and suddenly I discover like a landmark or a tourist attraction that really appeals to me, I just add it in the document, and Mike can do the same. It looks something like this to begin with. Once we have a list of places and attractions, we like to star our favorites so we know the big ones, the ones that you just don't want to miss. Then we go back to our map and we see how they all pan out. Obviously, there are things on this list that might have been a "we might go see this if we have time" item, while others are added because we happen to be driving right past that area. We start with the important starred locations and we see if there's a good route that can encompass a few of these places first. Sometimes you'll have to eliminate something in order to be able to create a logical path without taking that 31-hour drive and turning it into a 60-hour twisty-turny, hilly craziness. Also, in our case this year, we had to eliminate and adjust our route due to weather. California got a lot of snow in the higher elevations this year, and some of the parks like Yosemite and Sequoia and Kings Canyon weren't going to have all the roads or campgrounds open during the early part of April when we were going to be there. So, like a tree in the wind, we bent in a new direction and leaned into a more coastal trip, where we didn't have to worry about snow. We also had to adjust our coastal drive as there were parts of the coastal highway that were shut down due to landslides. While scoping things out on Google Maps, watch for large sections of red and see why those areas are red before you get stuck in a dead end or a sudden unexpected rerouting situation.
6. Now we start to put together an actual route plan. We have a few criteria we try to implement as we go. We like to keep our drives between 3 and 5 hours long on driving days. Our motto? Enjoy the journey, not just the destination. And we find it is much easier to enjoy the journey when you're not in the vehicle for 10 hours straight. This isn't always an option though, as there are times where you only have 4 days to travel that 31 hours. Or, if like when we left Southern Ontario at the end of December to head to Yuma, we needed to drive hard for a day or two to get beyond the weather, or in order just to allow more time at your destination. Happily, with our schedule this time, we have a month to get to our destination. Why, might you ask, do we have to be in Vancouver at the beginning of May? Why don't we take longer and see Yosemite in June when the weather is better? Well, this summer, we got work camping jobs in British Columbia. So the campground we will be working and living in has asked us to start work on May 8. We're looking forward to a different experience this summer, as we're doing groundskeeping work. So we can't stay later in the season in the USA this time around. So we decided that the California coast is our goal this time around. We would like to see Joshua Tree National Park, and this is only a few hours drive from Yuma. So we are just going to pencil this in as a for sure. We aren't going to assign how many days we are staying yet, just put it as our first stop location. What else is on that wish list of travel? There were Big Sur, San Francisco, Redwood Forest. Okay, how far is it to the Big Sur area? We have a road closure, so if we want to see the Big Sur, we have to come in from the north through Monterey. It took many hours to drive from Joshua Tree to Big Sur. This is further than we'd like to drive in one day, so we said, what is about halfway between the two? And we mark this as a potential stopping point. This is how we plan our trips often. How far from Monterey to our next destination? Okay, that works for our driving time, and so on. Then we put a tentative schedule together. Here we have our tentative layout of our route, but we haven't booked anything, nor have we assigned the amount of time at each location. Now we take a closer look and start putting in some tentative time frames. 3 days here, 2 days there, etc. Some places we wanted more time than others. As we look at the times, we adjust until it fits nicely into our 27-day time frame. Sometimes we have to spend less time at a location than we originally wanted to, or eliminate a location altogether in order to stay on schedule. That doesn't mean we'll never see that place, just not this time around.
All right, we have our locations, we have our time frames. Now we need more details. Where are we going to stay? Which campgrounds? Are there even any sites available at some of these campgrounds? Here we begin to fill in the details. We like to start at the beginning and work our way out, just in case we have to swerve again and adjust based on campsite availability. In Joshua Tree, we found a boondocking location next to the park. Free and great location, no reservations required. Our next stop was Bakersfield, California. We wanted more time at our other locations, so we just slated Bakersfield as a sleep in a truck stop or rest area and continue driving in the morning. Big Sur was next. There were not any available sites at some of the campsites we first wanted. We also wanted to see the Monterey area too, so we expanded our campground search. As we searched for campgrounds, I saw that the Laguna Seca Raceway had a campground that was reasonably priced. We were off-season for racing, but it looked interesting. And it sure was. Sometimes the campgrounds we book are amazing. Sometimes they're okay, and sometimes not so great. We do read reviews, and we hope for the best. We continue on to the next location, then the next, and so on until we have found campgrounds in each area. This is where we have flexibility, just in case our first choice isn't available. Some national and state parks fill quickly, but we can often find a private campground nearby and still do day trips into the state park. On occasion, we can't find any availability in an area. You know, note that this is extremely rare. There usually is something somewhere nearby, but it does happen. If there's absolutely nothing available, we either look further out or discuss changing our stop locations to something else. Planning a big trip can be a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. Enjoy the process. Get excited about all the places you've researched and that you're going to go visit. Let go of the places you didn't get on your agenda for this time and make a note to go there on another trip. By being methodical and using some step-by-step processes, putting together a big trip can be easy. Now, this isn't the only way to do a trip. We've talked to a lot of people who just wing it. They drive till they get somewhere, pull into a campground, and book it in the moment, or make reservations as they're on their way there. This is perfectly wonderful for some people. For others, not so much. It can be stressful arriving in an area and finding out that all the campgrounds are booked solid, or that they can fit you in for one night and then you have to move again for the next night and you have to move sites again for the third night just to be able to stay there. It can also be tough if you arrive in an area to booked up campgrounds and At 10 p.m., you have to drive another hour to a different area just to find an open spot. Stressful. Booking in advance does allow you the peace of mind that you know exactly where you're going, even if that is a boondocking or truck stop location, and that you have a spot waiting for you when you get there for the length of your stay. You know how much you're going to spend, and you know what amenities you will have or not have, so you're prepared. Speaking of amenities, if you're boondocking, you may have to scope out water fill and dumping station locations.
For us, at Joshua Tree, we found a water fill and dump station just inside the park, only a few miles from our campground. When we are planning on doing a truck stop, we have a few jugs that we make sure are filled with fresh drinking water and washing dishes, flushing the toilet. We carry that with us and have them filled up before we go. We prefer to drive with an empty water tank in the RV most of the time. We have found that a partially filled tank can cause some trailer sway as the water sloshes around in the tank, and a full water tank adds about like another 400 pounds to our trailer for towing. We like to fill up our freshwater tank as close to our boondocking location as possible, and then plan for water fill stations along the way. Okay, one more thing. As you can see, we had a lot of different camping locations and things to see along this particular journey. That is a lot to remember. We do not have eidetic memories. We will not remember all that we need to know, so we write these things down. We like to use a Google Sheets or Google Docs, but you do you. Paper, computer, notes on your phone, whatever you prefer. Just don't leave it all to memory. We record the name and location of the campground, what site we booked, what amenities they have, whether we have fully paid, partially paid, or have to pay upon arrival, and then things we want to see in that area while we are there. For Joshua Tree, we also made a note of where to go and fill up our tank with water before setting up at our dispersed camping location. We also made a note that we needed time at the end to drive into the dump station before hitting the road again. We also filled our water bags and jugs in preparation for our overnight at the truck stop in Bakersfield. As you can see, lots of things to remember, and good note keeping really makes this whole process easy and streamlined. So here's a quick overview of our process. Pick your start and end locations. Decide how much time do you have to get there. Map out some potential routes to get there. Choose any attractions that you really want to see. And fifth, verify weather and road conditions that may deter you from a particular route. Then, solidify your route. Start booking campsites beginning in order that you will be arriving. 8. Record all the travel details.
And lastly, enjoy the journey. And until next time, we look forward to seeing you on the road.
Check out some of our other videos and subscribe to our channel.
New content will be posted weekly.